our cities for a second. I mean, they're these incredible hubs, right? But with more and more people calling them home, the pressure on resources, the environment, it's just going up and up.
Yeah, it's a massive challenge.
It really makes you wonder, can we actually reinvent these spaces? Make them, you know, truly sustainable?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's exactly what we're digging into today. We've looked at a whole range of sources, actually.
Really interesting stuff.
Yeah, all pointing towards kind of how we build cities that aren't just surviving, but actively contributing to a healthier planet.
Exactly. We've got everything from like really practical guides on rainwater harvesting, something you could almost do yourself.
Very hands-on.
Right, all the way to these broader visions of entire cities just doing things differently. And then there's this whole circular economy idea. Fascinating.
It really is how we can sort of regenerate our existing urban areas.
Yeah.
So yeah, sustainability from, ground-up individual actions, citywide strategies.
We've looked at water conservation, planning principles, and this idea of waste as a resource. So our goal here is to really pull out the key insights for you, get past the jargon, find the actionable ideas for greener cities.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's start with something that feels quite direct, quite tangible. Rainwater harvesting in cities.
Right. Rainwater harvesting, it sounds maybe complicated, but it's a surprisingly straightforward way to conserve water.
Just collecting rainwater, basically.
Essentially, yeah.
Right.
Collecting it often from rooftops, which, cities have plenty of, and storing it for later use.
It seems so simple, but I guess the potential scale is huge when you think about all that rain falling on a city.
Exactly. The sources we looked at really highlight the benefits. First off, reducing the strain on our centralized water supplies.
Which are often under immense pressure, especially in dense areas.
Precisely. And by harvesting rainwater, you're kind of creating these little distributed water sources everywhere.
Decentral.
Beyond that, it helps recharge local groundwater, like topping up the city's natural underground reserve.
Okay.
Plus, capturing it right where it falls can lessen the load on storm drains, potentially reducing urban flooding too.
Yeah, that makes sense. The guide we saw really flags rooftop harvesting as ideal for cities, all those surfaces. But it's not just sticking a bucket out, is it?
No, not quite. Proper planning is important. You need a good collection method, how the water gets from the roof.
Gutters and pipes.
Right. Then filtration getting out leaves, debris, other impurities, and then safe, effective storage. The source showed different tank options suitable for urban settings.
And it's cool to see real examples. The guide mentioned Pradeep and Pushpa's house, how they used their roof to seriously cut down on city water use.
Yeah, those individual case studies are really powerful. They show what's possible.
Really brings it home.
The details show how even a fairly small roof can collect a significant amount of water over a year, obviously depending on rainfall.
And what do they use it for? Gardens.
Usually non-drinking purposes. So yeah, watering gardens, flushing toilets, maybe even laundry if it's filtered properly. It's just about being smarter with this, free resource.
And it scales up too, right? The Indian Institute of Science example showed it can work on a much larger institutional level.
Absolutely. Redirecting huge amounts of water, making a real dent in their overall water consumption. It shows the potential for, entire districts or large campuses.
So it's versatile. What about the cost? Is it expensive to set up?
Well, there's an initial cost, definitely, for the system, the installation. But the source points to long-term savings, lower water bills, especially where water is pricey.
So it can pay for itself over time.
Potentially, yes, making it, not just good for the environment, but economically sensible, too.
Okay, so rainwater harvesting a really concrete step. But let's zoom out a bit. How do we plan whole cities to be more sustainable? What are the big ideas in sustainable urban planning?
Right, so sustainable urban planning takes this much wider view. It's about finding a balance between environmental health, social equity, and economic vitality.
So not just focusing on, say, economic growth like maybe traditional planning did.
Exactly. It's a shift away from that narrower focus, looking at the long-term health of the city and everyone in it, planning for resilience, for well-being.
Seeing the city as like a whole ecosystem.
Kind of, yeah, a complex system. The source we looked at breaks down some key strategies. There's environmental urban planning,
Which is about?
conserving resources, protecting biodiversity within the city, cutting emissions, minimizing that environmental footprint.
Got it.
Then green urban planning. This is more about physically integrating nature. Think green roofs.
We just talked about rainwater, but they insulate too, right?
They do. Reduce runoff, insulate buildings, Also, things like interconnected parks, green corridors, even indoor green spaces, bringing nature in.
I love the idea of green roofs. So smart. What else?
Smart city planning, using technology, data, to make things run better. Managing waste, optimizing energy grids, improving traffic flow,
Mm.
making the city more efficient.
Using tech for good.
Then there's sustainable town planning, focusing on creating more compact, walkable neighborhoods, less reliance on cars, more self-contained communities.
Reducing sprawl.
Exactly. And finally, sustainable city design. This looks at the actual buildings and infrastructure, promoting green construction materials, renewable energy, water-saving designs.
Oh, okay. It's really comprehensive. It touches everything.
It aimed to, yes.
Are there cities actually doing this well? The source mentioned a few.
Oh, definitely. And they provide great models. Copenhagen, famous for its cycling infrastructure, right? Very people-focused, green mobility.
Yeah, bikes everywhere.
Singapore is another one.
Oh.
A real leader in using smart tech for city management, utilities, transport, everything.
Very integrated.
And Curitiba in Brazil, they were pioneers, really, with their bus rapid transit system, focused on green space, pedestrian areas. Long history there.
So it is possible. These aren't just theories.
No, absolutely achievable. These cities show that.
The source also mentioned cultural and institutional sustainability briefly. Why are those important?
Good question. Cultural sustainability is about preserving the city's identity, its heritage, its diversity, creating places people feel connected to.
Makes sense. A sense of belonging.
Yeah. And institutional sustainability, that's about the governance, the policies, the regulations, the partnerships needed to actually make sustainability happen and stick.
Right. You need the framework to support all these green ideas.
Exactly. Without strong institutions, even the best plans can just, fizzle out.
Okay, so we've got water harvesting, broader planning principles. Now, this circular economy idea applied to cities. This feels like a really big shift.
It is potentially transformative. The circular economy fundamentally challenges that old linear model. Take resources, make something, throw it away.
The take, make, dispose trap.
Precisely. Instead, it aims for a closed loop. Keep resources in use for as long as possible. Recover and regenerate products and materials at the end of their life. Waste becomes a resource.
Minimizing waste, maximizing value.
Okay.
And the source linked this to brownfield recycling in cities.
Yes. Brownfield recycling means redeveloping those underused or abandoned urban sites, often old industrial areas, the brownfields.
Instead of building on fresh green land further out.
Exactly. You use existing land, often existing infrastructure, reduce sprawl. It fits perfectly with circular principles, making the most of what you already have.
And the source introduced a specific model for this, the SEER model, Circular Economy in Real Estate, using a project called Chance Wittecon.
That's right. The SEER model, and using the Wittecon project, a former factory site transformation as a case study, helps make these circular ideas really concrete for urban regeneration.
Okay, so let's unpack the principles from that example. Resource efficiency. How does that look in practice? In a project like that, it means designing buildings and layouts really smartly, using less material, less space per person, maybe more compact units, shared facilities, multifunctional spaces, doing more with less, essentially.
Clever design. Okay. Then regeneration.
Regeneration in this context means more than just rebuilding. It's about actively weaving in green spaces, ecological features, enhancing the local environment.
Greening the brownfield.
Yes, though the Wittecon case highlighted challenges, like dealing with contaminated soil, which needs careful handling first.
Ah, right, the industrial legacy. What about this idea of decelerate or slow? Sounds counterintuitive for development.
It does, but it's about longevity, creating places designed to last, adaptable for different generations or uses, fostering community so people stay longer. It slows down that cycle of build, demolish, rebuild.
Building for permanence and adaptability. Interesting. And the core idea, closing the loop. How does that work with buildings?
That's about prioritizing reuse, taking apart the old structures carefully, salvaging materials, bricks, timber, metals, and designing the new buildings to incorporate them. Reduces need for new stuff, cuts waste right down.
Urban mining, almost.
You could call it that, yeah.
Cooperation and digitalization were also key. Why?
Well, cooperation is vital because these projects involve so many people, developers, architects, the city, residents. Everyone needs to be on board.
Needs that strong partnership.
Absolutely. And digitalization. Tools like BIM building information modeling and digital twins are huge.
Digital twins, like a virtual copy.
Exactly. A detailed virtual replica of the building or even the whole site lets you plan better, simulate different scenarios, manage maintenance efficiently over the long term, plus building automation for smart energy use.
Wow, that sounds incredibly useful for complex projects. The source listed specific methods, too.
Yeah, a whole toolbox. Scenario planning using those digital models, designing for disassembly, thinking from the start about how a building can eventually be taken apart and reused.
Planning for the end at the beginning.
Right, using circularity labels like DGNB to measure and show performance. Even things like AI tools for managing food waste in community kitchens within the development.
Food waste, too. Okay, comprehensive.
And gray energy accounting, tracking the energy embedded in materials across their whole life cycle, helps choose lower impact options.
It really covers every angle. What about the circular community hub idea?
Oh, that's a great example. Taking an existing building on the site and repurposing it for flexible community use workshops, events, services. It embodies that reuse principle and creates a social focus.
Making the most of existing structures.
Yeah.
And innovative energy. Lake water for heating and cooling.
Yeah, the Uedicon project uses a lake water thermal network.
Yeah.
Really clever use of a local renewable resource for energy. Circular thinking applied to energy.
That is ingenious. And the business models have to change too. Sharing platforms, product as a service.
That's a key part. Shifting from owning things to accessing services. Maybe you lease your lighting system or use shared workshops instead of everyone owning tools. Designing buildings with easily demountable parts supports this, makes reconfiguration easier.
It's a whole system change. So the SEER model pulls this together. What are its pillars?
Basically 4 steps. 1, define your circular concept for the project. 2, pick the right methods and tools. 3, figure out the data you need and get all the stakeholders involved. 4, specify the business model using Sustainable Business Model Innovation, or SBMI, to make it work financially.
And there are ways to measure success. Metrics.
Yes, the source mentions several indices: Concular CPX, DGMBCI, Magister MCI, Urban Mining Index, different ways to track and benchmark how circular a project actually is.
Okay. A framework and tools to make it happen. So wrapping up, we've gone from catching rain in a barrel, essentially, to redesigning whole urban systems based on circularity. How do these pieces fit together for the future?
I think the main takeaway is that it's not one single solution. It's layered. Rainwater harvesting is practical, local action. Sustainable planning gives us the citywide blueprint. And the circular economy provides this deep framework for resource management and regeneration.
They all need to work in concert.
Exactly. Integrated planning is crucial, thinking across scales, and stakeholder engagement, getting everyone involved. It's not just top-down.
Right. And the potential benefits are huge.
Definitely. Long-term cost savings, real environmental gains, and just, better places to live, more resilient, more vibrant communities.
It's a really compelling vision. So a final thought for you, the listener. Think about these ideas: rainwater harvesting, green planning principles, the circular economy. How might they apply where you live, in your community, your city? What steps, big or small, could help nudge your urban future towards being more sustainable? Something to chew on.